Good evening, fellow YouTubers of the world, and welcome to Mr. Shadow Productions. AZ Griper Incorporated. I'm not here to beat around the bush. I'm not here to say life is peachy, but it's not. Life can downright be unfair at times. And I'm about ready to tell you a story. Well, to give it some context, it all happened in the year of 1963. I was a young man then. I was going to school, doing my thing, being a good citizen. Till finally, one day, I had heard over the news that there was a draft going on. And I didn't think a thing of it. I just did my thing at school, and naturally, I had a part-time job, delivering papers over the weekend. And I thought everything was cool. I thought it was good. You know, everything was interesting, brand new. Anyway, everything was fine till I got a knock on my door. And two strange men in suits approached my door. And they asked me to come with them. And naturally, I wasn't going to break the law or do anything like that. So I told them, is there any way that you could just give me a minute to straighten up and change into some clothes and get all that done? And they said no problem. So they were going to wait. So they waited for a little bit, and I got dressed, I got changed, and whatever. And you know, I went outside to meet them. And I tried to ask what all this was about. And they didn't say anything. They stayed tight-lipped. And what the strangest thing about it was is that there was one guy in the front seat and one guy in the back seat and one guy on the driver's side. They were all wearing the same suit, doing the same thing, and I didn't quite I didn't quite understand it all. Why all this fancy security over just a little guy like me, barely out of my britches, and they were worried about me. So I go along for the ride, and now I thought, sure enough, that I was going to get drafted, that I was going to go right straight in the army and yada, 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 yada. Well, that wasn't the case. I wound up going to a place, it was a building facility, and it had NASA written on the front of it. Now, I thought that, in my infinite wisdom, I thought, well, this is kind of an odd place to have a military training facility, don't you think? It's kind of odd there. And I'd given up asking questions. I just stayed there and did as I was told. So they put me in a room and told me to wait there. And I was with three other guys. And so finally, another guy, one of the officials from the facility, told us to come with them. So we went, and I went with three other guys, two actually. I'm not going to divulge their names because of confidentiality. So, anyhow, uh, we got into a little room that had two bunk beds and a regular bed. So naturally, I took the regular bed, and they took the bunk beds. Everything seemed fine. We got settled in and uh, all that good stuff. And finally, the guy in charge, the facility comes in, and we all fall out and form a line as we were instructed. and we were marched out into a conference hall. We were marched out onto a conference hall. There was a few other people there. And the guy explained to us that we were under training. We were selected out of hundreds and hundreds of people to train for a specific mission. And I figured it was military, so I figured, okay, now the, you know, crap is going to hit the fan and blah, 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 all that garbage. Well, I come to find out I was wrong. What they were training us up to do, they were training us to deploy us to be astronauts, to be able to go on a mission for Mars. Well, for moon, for the moon. Sorry, get my stories mixed up. So we went through the rigorous training, and let me tell you, if you don't, if you think military training was bad, wait till you get into astronaut training. It's even worse. It's very, very rigorous, very stressful, and very straining. We even did training missions under the water to simulate how it would be away from Earth. Everything went fine. Eventually, years passed, and I graduated with flying colors through the academy, and it was me and three other guys. And it finally got to the point to where the main guy running the facility comes up and says, "Well, you're ready now." Said, "I'm ready for what?" He didn't say anything after that. He just told us to follow him. So, of course, from then on, I was basically trained just to keep my mouth shut and just to do as I was told. So, we get everything ready to go and we get crammed into a rocket, all three of us. I get seated and strapped in with a big heavy suit, and the other three did the same thing. And then we hear the countdown: 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. And as soon as we heard that, the only thing we could hear from that point on, we could literally feel the whole entire craft shaking and shuddering as we took off. And the only thing we could have heard at that point was the roar of the engines as we kept going up further and further and gaining altitude. Finally, the roaring stops, and we're officially out in space. And that's when everything went quiet. I wouldn't dare take my seatbelt off because I was afraid that I was going to float out and I was never going to be seen again. So I kept my seatbelt on and stayed put. So we got to our destination and the craft landed and we opened the doors, looked around. The planet, the moon, looked completely and utterly dead. I mean, it looked completely void of life, everything. It looked like just a lifeless planet. So, in our infinite wisdom, we decided to do a little bit of exploring. So, the three of us were like bunched up together, gathering data and all that. Then we decided to separate. Me, I stayed around the spacecraft because I was like, there ain't no way in hell I'm going to go out there and get something happen to me or whatever. I'm going to stick close by. And that's what I did. Well, the other two, one branched off to the left and one branched off to the right. And they got further and further and further away, but we stayed in radio contact. Everything was fine. We were gathering samples, taking pictures, all that. Well, here's what the oddest thing that happened was. We were This is so hard for me to explain. Um, we were there exploring, and keeping radio contact. Till finally, all of a sudden, the radio contact went dead. I tried to call everybody. I tried to contact everybody. And all you heard was just a static. I tried looking around visually. I saw nobody there. Now it made me wonder what happened to them. What went on? What's going on? And I tried to radio back mission control. I got nothing but static. So I go up into the ship and I frantically start pressing buttons to try and gain communication. Nothing happened. And it got to the point to where I was going to go out to look for them. And that's when all the static cleared up. And then that's when I heard one thing that was said, barely audible. It was stated, stay, stay. And then it went back to static again. I was a little shocked and a little dumbfounded, and I didn't know quite what to do. So I was going to go out and do it again. And just before I got out, the static clears up once again. And I hear a voice that said, stay, stay. So I stayed for a while. And then after that, the static cleared up. And mission control was radioing back to check in. And finally, after the third time, I pushed the button and it actually worked. And I explained to mission control what had happened and everything. And they said, you know what? Just push the button and come home. And we'll work everything out. Okay? So that's what I did. I came back, but I came back alone. Then they asked me, where's the other two? I said, I don't know. I have no explanation. And I tried to explain. I've explained it to the public. I've explained it to the newscasters. I've explained it to individual interviewers up 10,000 times. Till finally a police officer comes, knocks on my door, saying that I was under arrest for attempted murder. And I'm like, what? What on what charges? They threw me to the ground, cuffed me on the spot, and hauled my ass off to jail. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. All I did was just sit there and endure. Till finally I got to a judge. And I guess supposedly I got accused of murdering the two people that I was with, even though there was no body, no proof, no nothing. Still, I got charged for it. And I got sentenced 10 years to life, 10 years back to back to a life sentence for the murder of these two individuals. And I didn't even do it. I got set up on bullshit charges, but it didn't matter. They'd assume just throw away the key and just leave me there to rot. So that's what happened. Now here I am, 72 years old. And they're finally going to decide to release me after all this time. Come to find out that they had made a mistake. After 72 years, for all this time of being locked away, they all of a sudden decide to say they made a mistake. That got me mad, so angry. But you know, it's okay. At my age, I've learned to just let it go. So here I am, an old man now. I still, to this day, do not know what happened there. I don't know why I was the one that was spared when the others were taken. Just wasn't fair. Just wasn't fair.